Hi, this is Joshua Ponsah of the New African Concept, a movement dedicated to championing the cause of holistic national transformation. You are warmly welcome to Ghana Matters, a monthly platform where we take a monthly overview of major highlights that happened in the country and beyond. For the month of March, two major highlights on the international scale was the CEO of TikTok, Mr. Cho, who happened to face the congressman. And in fact, he was bombarded with a lot of questions and all. And we will get time to invade into that and assess how everything went, especially if we are following the trajectory that America is on. Then also we had the president of, or shall I say the parliament and the people of Uganda, presided over by President Museveni, also passing what is known as possibly the harshest anti-gay bill. And that one too, we will have time to assess it. Here in Ghana, major highlights happen to be, we had our president giving the State of the Nation's address on the 8th of March. And then also we had the counter State of the Nation's address that was given by the NDC or the opposition party to what they think is the actual State of the Nation. And then also we had our beloved brother Christian Achu being laid to rest. Once again, may his soul rest in perfect peace. And then just, somewhere last week or so, we also had Parliament endorsing or accepting the various ministers that were proposed by the president. And as we normally do, we may just touch on one to make a point. Out of these, the one that I would like to touch on briefly will be the last point. Now, the president proposed a number of ministers or a number of people to fill in certain gaps after we had some ministers leaving their office and then other places that needed certain replacements and then adjustments. The likes of Honorable K.T. Hammond and then several, these were proposed by the president. And then they also met the committee, and then after the committee, there was the voting also to accept them. In fact, many of us will agree, or any objectively inclined person will agree to the fact that some of these proposed ministers do not really fit to be in the kind of, job description or the ministry that have been given them. But what happened? At the end of the voting, surprisingly, or shall I say unsurprisingly, we had the parliament with this hung parliament that I will say, being able to pass all of them without even one being questioned or being queried that no, this person cannot pass through. And we all saw how the interrogations by the committee went. Now, some people are not fit. To some extent, even most of them are not really fit. And then we have had many reactions to it. And people are saying that the NDC or the MPP and then the MPs, the leaders are not doing well. They are thinking of themselves and then all that. It is most certain that majority or the voting patterns was based on affiliations rather than objective analysis. But once again, the point we have been raising just keeps on repeating over and over and over again. What have we been saying? So far to date, we've been saying that nations are successful not because of their natural resources, neither is it because of their geographical location, but mostly because of the quality of their value systems. So rich values will beget rich nations, poor values will give birth to poor nations, wealthy values will produce wealthy nations, and then weak values will produce weak nations. It is our hope that consistency of these happenings will help us to reorient our minds and then have a different perspective to the cause and discourses on nation building. So the question is, are we culprits or we are victims? Now our leaders have failed us and they are still failing us. MPP, NDC, with these proposed ministers, and then they could come together, and then the ultimate end result was that they have agreed and then accepted all of them. And that is very serious. You and I know that some of them don't deserve even to be, nominated in the first place. But how could they go through nomination, go through the committee, and then pass through elections or voting at the parliamentary state? So now the members or the citizenry, we are crying foul. We are saying that, oh, they are not doing well, or they've not really done well because of accepting them. And the question I'm asking is that, are we victims or we are culprits? Definitely we are culprits. Because how did the MPs get there in the first place? And this is not the first set of MPs that we have been woefully dissatisfied with their presentation or with their works. How did they get there? Was it through coup? No, it wasn't through coup. It wasn't through coup. They did not do it through coup. It was through elections. So the question still holds that, how were they able to get to that place? It was because you and I, we voted for them. That is the beauty and at the same time the limitations of democracy. How can we, the kingmakers, choose and then appoint and then elect a king, and then afterwards we are crying that the king is not doing his work, as if to say that he pulled gun and then say that you must vote for me? No. This is what we must understand. Next year is election year. Once again, these very people we are saying they are not doing their jobs, they don't know what to do, and then they have failed us, will come back again to us, which shows that in a democratic setting, the power belongs to the people. When they come back to us, what is the tone of our interest? How do we question them? How do we assess them? We don't do any of these. We are after the one who will be able to pay some of the guys and then take us on, a running spree. So during that time, what they will do is that they'll be visiting us at our houses and our homes. They'll be helping us to drive banku and then fufu and then all those kind of stuffs. And they will say that, oh, MP with your from, and then they'll organize gala for the youth in the community. And then afterwards, they'll give maybe a kinky party or a wachi party, and then they will then sponsor us to go and then make campaigns for them. And we will finish voting for them, and then afterwards, we will be crying out that these leaders are not doing well. I am not happy that these things are happening, but to some extent, it is to help us reflect. Are we not to condemn what they did? Are we not to talk against the poverty of leadership we have in our country and then in many places in Africa? Obviously, we have to speak up. That is part of the machinery of democracy. Democracy is not only measured by free and fair elections. The strength of democracy is the extent to which every citizen is involved in the machinery of governance. So we must put our leaders on their toes by speaking. When they do right, we must applaud them. When they go wrong like this, we must give it to them hard. But the truth of the matter is that, who brought them in the first place? That is the root cause. We are the kingmakers. So instead of shedding tears, we should be asking ourselves, what was wrong with us to have appointed these caliber of MPs? So that it will help us to reflect that in the upcoming elections, it is no more about who will be giving all those kinds of promises. We are now after track records. We are now after pushing the person to find his philosophical ideologies and what he has done before, and then to assess the person to see that this person is capable of doing it. I believe that when we twist the argument from always bashing the leaders to begin to think that you and I, we are the kingmakers. We don't blame, of course, we must blame the king if he goes wrong, but the greater blame is onto the kingmakers. The kingmakers in any democratic setting are the people or the populace or the citizenry. Until we change our way of thinking, we will keep on getting these things. Our MPs have failed us continually, and they are still failing us. Are we to insult them? No. If they go wrong as they've done, we must address it. But the greater blame must come to us. It is my prayer and my hope that these conversations will spark a mighty wave across the nation and even the diaspora, so that in the next set of elections and even afterwards, we will arise and take the concept of nation building to the next level. God richly bless you. This has been another edition, or the March edition, of Ghana Matters. See you for April. Thank you.